All right, guys, welcome back. Trenton 3D in the house. Unfortunately, we had a little malfunction with the audio from the last class, so we're going to do a quick recap of Zbrush, basic user interface and commands, just some basics of Zbrush. And why I really feel so strong about Zbrush, because it's a tool that really gives you that organic feel, where Rhino can be a little mechanical. Zbrush lets you get very treated like with clay. So as we talk about, when we open up Zbrush, the first thing I do is, you can either go over here to the top left and click on the lightbox icon to turn it on and off. But I like using shortcuts, as you guys all know. Your hands are supposed to be on the keyboard and keep that habit going. Comma turns it off. Turns off the light box. Then we're going to go over to the star icon and we're going to left click on the star, and what that does is that opens up all the commands over here and initiates them. So you see all these commands came up once I clicked on the star. Okay, and what we want to do now is we're going to go into the tools and click on it, and we want to bring in a sphere. So we just click on the sphere icon, get onto the just wait, let me just record. Okay, we're going to left click and drag, and then we're going to hit T and then F. Okay, but before we can actually draw on here, okay, if we start to try to draw on it, it's going to give me an error message saying that you have to turn the primitive and make Polymesh 3D command. So that's right over here. That's right under export. It's make Polymesh 3D. You click on it, and now I can draw onto the sphere. Okay. And we talked about symmetry because that allows us to do things like faces and draw objects and duplicate both sides of an object simultaneously. The command for that is X. So when I hit X, now I have symmetry. So I have two brushes going at the same time. We talked about changing the orientation and locking things down by hitting the Shift button. So when we hit Shift, it locks the sphere in a certain direction. So if I turn it a little bit by right-clicking, hitting the Alt button and right-clicking allows you to pan. So just remember we talked about that. Okay, so right-click is a rotation, Alt, right-click is a pan. Okay, and when I hit Shift, it locks the object in a particular view, whether it's the front view, the top view, you decide. Now we talked about zooming, and I told you that zooming was the trickiest part, right? So zooming, we're gonna hold down the Alt button, right click, wiggle a little bit the object, let go of the Alt button, but don't let go of the right click, and then move the mouse up and down for a zoom, okay? So that is how we zoom. So a lot of it is gonna be holding the Alt button down for panning. And then for zooming, you're going to wiggle, let go of the Alt button, and move the mouse up and down for a zoom. Okay, so here we are drawing on two sides of the sphere, as you can see. All right, so one thing that I want to teach you is when you hit the Alt button down while drawing with the left mouse button, that pushes in to an object. Okay, so you see I'm digging into the object. Whereas if I'm just left clicking without holding the Alt button, I'm now drawing outwards. It's like a positive of the clay. Alt is like the negative of the clay. And you can tell if you look very closely when you're holding the Alt button down, you'll see a little minus button by the focal point. You'll see a little minus button, okay? And that's letting you know that you're digging into an object as opposed to outwards. So when I let go of the Alt button again, now I have a positive direction of the brush moving the material, okay? Now we talked about the space bar. What is that? That's like a little quick shortcut to change the size of the brush. That's the focal point, and the draw size. So you see I'm going very big now. I'm changing the size. So now when I draw, like everything is very, very, very big drawing now. It's like really deforming the shape here, as you can see. If I hit the Alt button, again, it's going to dig into the object. It's going to dig into the object, okay? And that's, again, the space bar. We have intensity. Intensity is basically the strength of whatever you're doing. So now if I lower the intensity and I hit the draw, you can barely see it because the intensity is so low, but it is affecting the model ever so slightly. If I raise the intensity up all the way, you're gonna see I'm like doing massive effect to it. And that's because I'm adjusting the intensity, okay? Another way I adjust the brush size, and I use this a lot, is the brackets. I tap on the bracket, left makes it smaller, right makes it bigger. I tend to use that actually more than the space bar. I don't know why, just my designing way. So yeah, I like to use the keyboard again because I'm a shortcut maniac. So again, you can use the brackets, left, smaller, right, bigger. Alt goes in, and left click goes out, okay? So the next thing we're gonna talk about, again, is wherever I do a left click, so if I'm right here and I just left click, it's gonna rotate from that point. So if I wanna rotate from the lower part of it, I'll go down here and I'll left click it once, and now it's rotating from the lower part of the model. Again, if I wanna rotate from the top, I left click once, and now I'm rotating from the top of the model. And that becomes more apparent when the object is really different. So how can I really change the shape of this model is by hitting the B button, bringing up my brushes. Again, B is the shortcut for brushes. And as you can see, there's a ton of brushes. And let me tell you something, there is way more brushes than what you see here. There's people custom making all kinds of brushes. It's like Photoshop where you can have all kinds of plugins. There are tons of different brushes for texturing and doing all kinds of wacky things like making braids, you know, all kinds of stuff. So one way is I want to use the move brush. I'm going to basically, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm going to minimize the selection by, when I hit M, only the M brushes show up. And right here is move, okay? It's right here. So now I've kind of helped myself get to move by just hitting a letter of the name of the brush. So I click on move, and now I have the move brush. And what does that do? It's literally what it says, moving pixels, okay? So I want to really stretch out this thing. So what I'm going to do is make the brush really big, and as you see, I'm using the shortcut key just because I feel like it just works better for me. I'm going to grab the model and I'm going to start pulling it out. Start forming, you know, just like whatever kind of monster. You guys are going to make a monster today because, you know, that's fun. All right, as you can see, it's when you start stretching out the model a lot, you see how the pixel, it gets pixelated and it's getting like stretching out the pixels. You can see the polygons are stretching out here. So the next thing I'm going to teach you, and this is a really important command, and this is one of the features of Zbrush, is a command called Dynamesh. Where do you find Dynamesh? Well, you go under the Geometry tab over here. Right here is Geometry. Scroll down to Dynamesh. Click on the Dynamesh menu. And right here is the Dynamesh button. But before you click on the Dynamesh button, let's increase the resolution. I generally target around 400 for resolution. And why is that important is because you do not want to have a heavy polygon count. You don't want to be working in millions of polygons and going back and forth into Rhino, especially if you have an older computer or you're using an older version. You want to keep your polygon count down to around 250,000 is ideal. So now when I hit Dynamesh, it's basically putting a new skin around the 3D model. A brand new skin that's going to have exactly perfect pixelation or pixels or polygons, whatever the word you want to use. And as you can see, it rebuilt the model, and now the geometry is not stretched out anymore. So now I can stretch it out again. I can keep stretching it out and making whatever I want out of it. Keep pulling it however I want. And this is like maybe stretching out arms or what have you. And when I stretch it out again, there's a shortcut now to do Dynamesh. Instead of going over here, clicking on the button, I'm going to hit the Alt button, left click on the outside of the model, and Control, left click, drag. And now that automatically creates a Dynamesh. It's saying projection in progress. And you can see the orange line is going across. So it's putting a new skin on right now. So it was Control, left click, drag down. And that's an automated way to do Dynamesh. All right, well, why is it taking so long here? Give it a second. All right, there we go. So yeah, Control, left click, drag down is Dynamesh. I don't know why I did it again, but I did it again.
Do you need a chair, my friend?
Yeah, but it's been good. Thanks for
These long pauses I edit out. I look forward to the email and let me know if you need anything from me.
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right, so yeah, so last week we did Zbrush. We're doing Zbrush again because the video didn't have audio, and I wanted to just do a quick recap of it. And then today we're gonna make a diamond ring. All right, so that is basically what I wanted to show you. I didn't want to go too crazy with it. Again, you know, you have all different kinds of brushes. You guys can experiment. Clay buildup allows you to like add material to it, and you can really start adding material. Oh yeah, one thing, when you hit the shift button and left click, it's a smooth command. That's a good one because that smooths out the geometry here, okay? And if you really want to get like real high detail where we're going to go in there and carve out things, I use a brush called Damn Standard, and that one like allows you to carve into the object and add details, so you can really start to dig in and start forming like nice shapes. If you hit Alt, it's the opposite of pushing in, it's pushing out for this particular brush, so I tend to add like, you know, certain kind of ribbing and things like that using that. So you kind of come up with your own little techniques. The commands are simple. It's really about you as an artist. This is really what makes the difference between each ZBrush user, because that's basically it. What I just showed you right now is the basics of ZBrush. So now it comes to you as an artist to make what you want to sculpt. Take the time to sit there and design it. And then the last thing I'm going to show for today on ZBrush is subdividing. So what it is you have those pixels I was talking about, those big polygons. And when I take it and I subdivide it, it takes one polygon and cuts it into 4. And it allows to add more detail. So the command for that is Control D. And then you see it says subdividing geometry. And man, we are at 6 million polygons. All right, so that is a lot. All right, guys, so let's get started. That's pretty much it for the ZBrush recap.
I mean, so, you done with the video thing?
Yeah, I'm gonna stop it right there. Then you can ask me the questions if you want. And I'll walk it through. You know, actually, we can walk through it slowly. I'll go through it now slowly.
So yeah, mine's